Okay, welcome everybody. Baruch Hashem, here we are for our finale farbrengen for SAI. I want to say a huge kol hakavod to everyone who worked so hard for the whole series. It really is. Whether you did every single reading, every single journal, or no reading or no journal, the fact that you tried and the fact that you made an effort and the fact that you showed up to farbrengen and you signed up, Hashem appreciates it greatly, greatly, greatly. I will say that I have an extra special mazel tov and picture certificates here. Our printer didn't quite finish on time, so they will be delivered to you very soon, Be'ezus Hashem. For now, I'm going to send them on the WhatsApp, but we made certificates because there were 14 women who did every single reading and every single week's journaling. And that has to be celebrated. 14 women. So those 14 women got a certificate, and we even made certificates for the total of 22 of them, which now I found out there's 23 of women who did at least 3 quotas. So there's 5 quotas in the whole 60 days period, and all the ladies that did at least 3 quotas, so there's 23 ladies, did incredibly, and you guys all get certificates. I will, Be'ezus Hashem, share them on the WhatsApp group in the meantime, just the image, and you guys can post on your status, share with your parents, celebrate. And a huge thank you to Geula for all her hard work to make that tally up. Baruch Hashem. But yes, I think these 14/23, they deserve a huge round of applause for all their hard work over the whole 60 days. Kol hakavod. In the meantime, I want to share that today's prize is what I thought was a great in-between. I think most of Tishrei we're getting inspired and we're growing and we're lifting and lifting and lifting. And now we went into last week, so it's Mayim Rabim. We went into this week, it's Lech Lecha. So we're kind of going back into the mundane. We're going back into the grind. And many of us struggle to bring that inspiration for Tishrei into the day-to-day life. And that's one of the reasons why we're having farbrengen today. But our prize is a pocket-sized Tehillim. So no matter where you are, whether you're at work, whether you're in the subway, wherever you are, you can always, when you're in 770, you can always have your Tehillim, and you can bring the Eibishter there with you and go into the words of Tehillim and reconnect to your deepest, most inspirational time period of Tishrei and bring it alive with you. So the people. Woohoo! The people who earned this quota are Adina Lapine, Ariela Zuckerman, Bela Kalendarova, Brachi Mishalovin, Chai Mushka Weinstein, Devora Kapalovitz, Esther Citrin, Gula Nutik, Ruta Cohen, Rachel Spiro, Chaya Matasav, Daniela Comboy, Liba Sher, Yosefa Wood Eisenberg, Chaya Liebman, Fegi Shue, Rachel Schmerling, Esther Malka Cohen, Ita Gurovich, Chani Albuquerque. If I missed anybody, please let me know. And just to mention the people who were getting certificates, it's Adina Lapine, Ariela Zuckerman, Bela Kalendarova, Brachi Mishalovin, Chai Mushka Weinstein, Devora Kapalovitz, Esther Citrin, Gula Nutik, Ruta Cohen, Rachel Spiro, Chaya Matasaf, Daniela Comboy, Liba Sher, Yosefa Wood Eisenberg, Chaya Liebman, Fegi Shvei, Rachel Schmerling, Shelby Aronson, Aviva, I need to get her last name, Esther Malka Cohen, Ita Gurovich, Ruth Pennon, and Chani Albuquerque. So a huge mazel tov and kol hakavod. And if you haven't yet picked up the rest of your prizes, Baruch Hashem, they are here waiting for you. You will gather them from the stand over here. And with that, I will say it's such a huge schus to be able to share nachas. I know that as a wife, sometimes I see, especially now that my husband's been doing, for anyone who hasn't yet heard, Living Chassidus recently during Elul started a separate men's division. So it's a very big deal, almost 10 years in the making. And now that I get to see his accomplishments, it gets such nachas as a wife to see that. So I'm sure our speaker today, Mrs. Jacobson, she is getting such nachas from all of us learning her husband's sefer. and from our growth. And I'm sure he spent many, many hours working on this, and I'm sure she was privy to such things. So thank you so much for all of your help in that. And thank you so much for being a part of Living Chassidus and joining us tonight. Baruch Hashem.
Okay. Do I have to put, am I putting this on or no?
If you could, that'd be great.
This way. See, will it work? I think it's gonna work. Okay, just do. Put on my glasses so I can see what I'm doing. Oh, thank you. That's so nice. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. I'm very, very touched by your very beautiful introduction. I don't deserve any of it, but thank you. And I'm really very honored to be in the presence of such, I really think, very, very great women, because I know it's a real commitment, and to do it every day, that's really unbelievable. And to do it even not only sometimes, it's also beautiful. So each of you really should be the person that has something to share. That's the truth. I'm just here because I can't say no to Michal, but I'm not the person that is deserving to be here. But okay, by Hashgacha Pratis, I'm here, and thank you for the honor and for the privilege. And I thought, being that this is a sort of like a wrap up, you can say, of 60 days. The 60 days are, of course, the Chodesh of Elul and the Chodesh of Tishrei. And those are days that are very, very special and carry a lot of weight. And I mean it in a spiritual way. I don't mean it as a burden, Chas v'shalom. I mean the opposite. It gives us the wings to carry everything we have together from all the holy days. And then it's almost like we get a crash. Here we are. The days have passed, and now we're back in the regular world. And like somebody said to me the other day, I can't believe that I would stand here now and say, Tishrei's over, and in a certain sense, it's like it never happened. I said, you can never say that, because just look at all the pounds of food that you bought and cooked, and all of the things that you washed and cleaned. And she says, exactly. She says, you're very right. But, so I think that one of the most important things is that we have to be able to take this incredible, amazing strength and spirit and holiness and joy that we gained from the whole preparing for Tishrei and then the whole Tishrei, and know that even though the days of Yontif, the physical days of Yontif are over, and now the Shabbos Breishis days are over as well. However, nothing is over. It's actually now going to begin. We're going to do, what does the Frierdiker Rebbe say? Actually, the Frierdiker Rebbe's mashal is, and of course, it's all connected to the Yaakov Halach Darka, which we'll speak about in a moment, that what is it this time of year when we say Yaakov Halach Darka? It's literally, the Frierdiker Rebbe says, it's like a merchant who goes to, it's not like today where we just click on Amazon and we buy whatever we want. The merchant who sold the goods, the people that are uploading the goods online now to sell, imagine that they had to travel by horse and buggy to the city where the stuff was that they were dealing in. They had to go, they had to procure it, they had to buy it, they had to schlep it back home. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said, what did they do? Once they got there, they immediately started to unpack their goods, because they had to sell it, because they had to make money to support themselves. And the Frierdiker Rebbe literally says that this is what the Yaakov Halach Darka is, that we take all of these goods that we procure during Tishrei, and we'll go through in a moment what we got when, and we come home, and immediately we have to begin to take out all these goods and to make sure that we use them and we see them, and we we could say, we put them out for the customers to buy, which means ourselves. Now we have to see all these goods, take each one, look at it, inspect it, and decide what I'm going to do with it in a very, very real way. So just to begin, I just want to, about this whole concept of Yaakov Halach Darkai. I want to just say that one of the things that the farbrengen Rebbe writes, he writes this in the Igros Kodesh of the Rebbe Rayatz. They're printed in the Igros Kodesh of the farbrengen Rebbe in the first volume. And what does he say? The farbrengen Rebbe says the following, and I'm going to read it. He says, my father, the Holy Rebbe, that means the Holy Rebbe Rashab, when he was in our city of Lubavitch, in the presence of our brothers, the Tmimim, the Chassidim, the Yeshiva Bahrim, after the grand Suda on Simchas Torah, right after the great Suda of Simchas Torah, he would begin to say right away, now is the time of V'Yakov halach l'darka, and Yaakov goes on his way. And then he said, after the Avodah of the very, very festive, incredible month of Tishrei, now Yaakov, why the name Yaakov? Because the name of Yaakov corresponds to the lower level of our neshama, as expressed in the name Yaakov. Why? Because we know that Yaakov comes from the word Akev, and Akev means a heel. A heel is the very, very bottom of the person. Now Yaakov, that name, thinking that it's the lower part of our neshama, he must go on his way, serving Hashem with Torah and mitzvahs through everyday life throughout the year. So this is what the farbrengen Rebbe writes in his Igros, in one of his, it's printed there, that this is what his father, the Rebbe Rashab, used to say when they were in the city of Lubavitch among all the Chassidim. Now, if we think about this, there is, I hope that you have experienced this in your life, and I hope that you will experience it even on a more personal level and many more times over. There are certain times in your life where there's a tremendous joy for something exceptionally spectacular that happens, and it's a tremendous joy. And you can't even explain it to somebody. The best you could do is say to them eventually, you know what, when you will experience this, you will understand what I'm talking about. It goes into the realm of those things that you can't really explain exactly what they are. Hello, everybody. And so, like, for example, it's very, very hard to express to somebody, imagine a day that was the greatest thing in the world happened to you. And you could tell everybody how delighted you are. But what happens is that after that joy, you feel that moment that joy is never going to go away. It's so great, everything is possible. Nothing seems problematic. But we all know that we're human. Then time passes, and we have to remind ourselves, oh, why am I in a bad mood now? Something silly happened. Why can't I be back in the mood that I was when something so fantastic happened? And the truth is, it's a good thing to think like that, because, at least I think so, because then it puts us back, tries at least to remind us that we should go back into that mindset. And this is really what it means to take this feeling of tremendous elevation of Tishrei and to now try to transfer it into our very mundane lives. I often thought as a child, and the truth is, I still think about it. I used to say, doesn't make any sense. All these amazing holidays were packed into these few weeks, and then comes the next month of Heshvan, and there is nothing happening, nothing. It's like such a sad, dreary month. And, depending on where you live, but when you grow up in a place like New York, let's say, it was also, even the weather seemed to corroborate that feeling. Tishrei, sometimes you could still have some sunny, nice days. Then everything felt dreary. It's like, what happened to all those great, just a few days ago, just a week ago, just 2 weeks ago, things were so exciting. Living here, I think we really feel it also, because the streets were jam-packed, morning, noon, and night. There were things happening everywhere. Maybe some people felt it was not so comfortable for them to stand online on Friday in the grocery store for an hour just to buy one yogurt. But at the same time, it was like an unbelievable thing. It was like every time you feel it's like Yerushalayim is here. It's just an amazing thing. And suddenly, the days start getting darker and the nights get longer, the days get shorter, Shabbos, and the streets get emptier and it gets colder and it feels dark and dreary. And it's a very normal thing that we feel like this. So let's understand what did the Rebbe speak about in connection to this idea. So before, I just want to share with you something that I have, one of my memories of I have many, many memories of Tishrei here in Crown Heights. I feel very, very, very lucky. I did nothing to deserve this. It was a present from Hashem that I was able to grow up here and be here in the good days when the Rebbe was actually here. And, we never slept in our own beds. You didn't know what was going on, who was eating from. It was just unbelievable. Okay. And then, we got a little older. We came to high school and we had our own little mafia going, like, who was your own space by the window of 770, and you took turns, and you came in the night and you came in the day, and this one held your place and that one held your place, and this one was related to you all of a sudden and that one wasn't related. You had all kinds of very, very interesting things. But the thing that really will never, ever, ever forget, I was 15 years old. I was just the beginning of Beis Rivka's 10th grade in high school. I still remember till today what I was wearing that day on Simchas Torah Shmini Atzeres night when the Rebbe had a heart attack. It was Tafshin Lamed Ches. It was 1977. And I will never forget that day as long as I live. And well, obviously one of the reasons because it was very, very frightening. Terrifically, terribly, horribly frightening. But one of the things that stands out in my mind was Motzei Simchas Torah, when we suddenly heard that the Rebbe was going to speak from his room. And nobody really even understood what that meant, but nobody was going to miss that. And we all ran to shul. And the Rebbe spoke. We didn't see him, but we heard him because they had a microphone in his room. And the Rebbe spoke, and it was very, very, I can't even explain the feeling, because on one hand, it was very, very emotional. Everybody was crying in the shul. And it was also so joyful because we heard the Rebbe speak. We didn't, I was a kid. I didn't really know how to reconcile the two. But what happened after that was that for quite a few weeks, the Rebbe would speak from his room. And eventually the Rebbe would speak, was only Motzei Shabbos. The Rebbe would speak, come down some afterwards from his room. Then he would come into some 70, but only Motzei Shabbos, because then the Rebbe could speak on a microphone. Could speak on a microphone, he wouldn't have to strain his voice without a microphone. The doctors did not want him to do anything of that sort. And that year actually was the year that the Rebbe spoke a lot about. He spoke many sichos about the Yaakov Halach Darko, and he continued after Simchas Torah, after Shabbos Precious, after into the month of Heshvan that we are now for quite a few weeks. And that really, I think about that a lot. That's really what we need today. The message is here. We just have to keep reminding ourselves what the message is. So it's interesting. I don't know if you ever heard this or not. You probably did. That says that in Lubavitch, in the city of Lubavitch, there would actually be an announcement would be made. An announcement like, hey, Hafn Kol, out loud. That what? What was the announcement? In Lubavitch, it happened on Motzei Simchas Torah. The announcement would be V'Yaakov Halach Darko. It would be made out loud so everybody could hear it. Now it's time. This would be in Lubavitch on Motzei Simchas Torah. Okay. However, and the Rebbe himself repeated this many, many times, this fact. As a matter of fact, I've heard that there were occasions where the Rebbe said that you should say this, that this announcement should be made. Sometimes the Rebbe made it, sometimes he asked other people to make it, and he said they should make it out loud so that everybody could hear it. In a certain sense, I guess to myself, I interpret it as meaning that don't say you didn't know, because it was said out loud, that now is the time for V'Yaakov Halach Darko. Okay. And let's talk for a minute about one of the things. There are so many things. There's no way we could go through everything. But one of the explanations that the Rebbe gave about these three words, it's so intuitive if you think about it. And the Rebbe said the following, V'Yaakov. I don't want to get this wrong, so I wrote it out so I could make sure that I'm saying it right. That the name Yaakov, like we said before, is from the word Akev, which means heel. That symbolizes the lower level of the neshama. What is that? It's our connection with the physical world and how we refine it. So that's the Akev, that's our heel. It's our connection with the physical world. Even in a physical way, it's our connection with the physical world, because that's how we walk, right? We walk, we step with our foot on the hill, we step on the ground. This is a very, very physical connection. And it's, this is the part of our neshama that deals with the physical world. But it's not only, the name is not only Akev, it's V'Yaakov. Yaakov, we add the Yud, like we said before. It's added in the beginning of the name, not at the end of the name. Why? It symbolizes our connection to Hashem's name and our ability to connect the highest levels of Elokus with the physical world. So here we have it. That's the word V'Yaakov. Yaakov is, of course, the name of Yaakov Avinu, but it's much more than just the name. And this is, I'm sure, one of the reasons why that was his name, because it shows us that even in the lower part of our neshama, which deals with the physical world, like, for example, if I know that I'm hungry, that I want to eat. And so what do? I just want food. But there's a part of, that's the lower part of my neshama that's connected, and it tells me, okay, make a bracha before you eat the food. So yes, I'm a physical person, but if you try as a Jew that everything we do, even the most physical, mundane things, they should have that connection with a Yud, with Hashem, that it gives us the ability to know that even the most physical thing, we could connect with Hashem. So that's the concept of Yaakov. Then we have the concept of halach. Halach means to go. We know it means to go, to walk, going. What is that? It symbolizes progress. It says there's nothing worse than not moving forward. Sometimes even moving backward is better than being stagnant. Because stagnant, when something is stagnant, we know what's the worst water that there could be. Water that's stagnant, it collects germs, it collects insects, it's terrible. Even if something is not so pure, but it's at least running, it's different. So the Yaakov, you have that whole concept we just spoke about, the halach. What is that? We go. It symbolizes that there's constant avodah, it's constant progress in our avodah. And then the Rebbe says ledarkoi. What's ledarkoi? Derech is a road. What is that? What's a road? What's the purpose of a road? The purpose of a road is to connect two different things or many different things. If you want to go from one point A to point B, you go on a road. You travel on the road, and this road is connecting you. And it's possible, and today we don't think of it so much like this because we travel all kinds of ways. We go in the air, we go, all kinds of ways. But imagine anybody who ever wanted to travel anywhere, and they have to go on a road from here to there, from point A to point B. And there's many, many countries where a road can lead from the beginning of the country to the end of the country. People who know road maps very well can tell you that there's certain interstate highways that can take you from one part of the United States to a very, very, very further away part. So what does the Rebbe say? That this could even also be not only the connecting two places, but the same road could connect a slum area, a place that is really a very lowly place. You go on that same road, that could be your first stop, and that road could take you all the way to the king's palace. The same road could connect you. So that's really what it means to go B'Yaakov halach l'darkei. We go on our road. What is that? That it takes you from the furthest corner all the way to the king's palace himself. In this instance that Rebbe said, where we're talking about B'Yaakov halach l'darkei, after the Yom Tovim of Tishrei, we connect our everyday lives with Hashem's palace, with the palace of the king. How do we do it? We make a dira here, b'tachtainim here for the Eibishter. So this is, in a very small nutshell, a little bit about one of the thoughts that the Rebbe spoke about in some of these sichos that we mentioned before, that especially that year. And I just want to say also, before I continue speaking about this, that one of the things, and another memory that I have from when I'm a very, very little girl is, and this is really what it means, B'Yaakov halach l'darkei. After Tishrei, and all the guests were here, and it was a very glorious time. And then after Shabbos Bereishis, everybody would start going home. And, it was different than today. The community was much smaller, and we would go to 770. There would be like large groups that would leave at the same time. And they would all leave, and they would come in front of 770, and there would be buses or taxis, whatever it was, and they would stand in front of shul and they would dance. And it was very emotional. It really was, like singing, Taya David and and it was very emotional. And there were years also, this also happened when groups of Bahrain would go on shluchos to different places. The Rebbe would come outside and he would stand and watch the people leave. Now, I'll tell you something I learned from this. I remember being a very little girl and holding on to my father's hand, and they were singing, and they all finally went into the buses or whatever it was, and people were watching, and people started to leave, but the Rebbe was still standing there. And I said to my father, let's go, let's go. My father said, no, we're not going to go until the Rebbe goes in. So I said, why isn't the Rebbe going in? The bus is left. And he said, because when you watch a Jew leave, it's a mitzvah to walk somebody to the door to be malach. When you watch a Jew, by the way, it's the whole concept of him. And so when you watch a person leave, the halacha is you're supposed to watch them until you can't see them anymore. So the Rebbe would not go in until he couldn't see the vehicles. When it was mamash a pinpoint and you couldn't see it anymore. So I never forgot that. It was like I guess when you're a kid, you remember the funniest things. Or this is like, I never have a rhyme or reason why you remember some things and some things not. But it was such an amazing lesson that I always think about it at the end of Tishrei. I always think about it. It's like the Rebbe didn't go in until he couldn't see it anymore. So it's like we had all this Tishrei and we cannot say goodbye to it until we don't see it anymore. Meaning to say is until we don't take it and unpack it and unpack it and unpack it until by the time we finish unpacking it, it's time for the next Tishrei. So I think this is really, in a certain sense, what the Rabbeim taught us when they said that it's time for, B'Yaakov Halachadarka. And there are many other things. I'll share a few other points only because I think it's just so interesting. It gives us a little bit of perspective of the history of what went on, the different kufas of the Rabbeim. But I don't know if you ever thought, but what was the original source for connecting the pasuk of Yaakov Halachadarkai to this, what we're speaking about now after Tishrei? And as far as I understood, it was from in the time of the Rebbe Maharash. He said a mimer. It was Taf Reish Lamed Zayin. The name of the mimer, the hemshech was called Hemshech V'Kaha. And the Rebbe Maharash there applies the pasuk to the avodah following the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So this is still in Tishrei. That's the place where, like, the first thing that I maybe there are of course other places, but one of the things that we know that was the Rebbe Maharash spoke about this concept in a mimer, and he spoke about it in reference to the avodah of after completing the avodah of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. But it says in Lubavitch, in the city of Lubavitch, they spoke about it. It was applied to the avodah after Simchas Torah, more like we know it now. And interestingly, the Rebbe explains that there are several stages in this avodah of Yaakov Halachadarkai, which is very, very interesting. The Rebbe says one level is right after Yom Kippur. Why? Because the Yomim Noraim are a time when the unity of all the Jewish people shines. So after Yom Kippur, if anybody here had the great chance to ever be in 770 with the Rebbe Motzei Yom Kippur, it's an unforgettable memory that after everything was over, people didn't just run home to eat, even though everybody was hungry. Nobody would leave until they would have a ma'ariv, right? They have Havdalah, and then the Rebbe would, from his place, the Rebbe would stand and watch, and then he would go. Before he walked off, he would make with his hands 3 times. The whole crowd would scream, "Gut Yontif, Gut Yontif, Gut Yontif," like that. And the Rebbe's face was like mamish glowing. It was beautiful, and you could see like there was something about the whole unity of everybody being together. And you can imagine this year being that Shnas Hakel, it's even more of a concept that what does it mean the avodah of Yom Kippur? That after Yom Kippur, it's the whole concept of all the Jewish people shining together. Rosh Hashanah is the day when Atem Nitzavim Hayoim Kolhem. That's what it says, right? That all the Jewish people stand together before Hashem. Yom Kippur is known as the Achas Bashana, the one singular day of the year, when all the external elements melt away and the internal unity surfaces. Why? Because we're not like people on Yom Kippur. We're like Malachim. So there's the externalities, like we said, the akev, that part is really, it's gone. We don't eat, we don't drink, we do anything that human beings do. Only we have to sustain ourselves, but that's it. We have to breathe, we have to live. So we're not burdened by the externalities of the Humrius. We have this, and that's why we're all united, because there's no, if you, on a holy level, it's not like the bodies are getting in the way of each other. We're each a soul, and the souls, they don't care who's tall, who's short, whose hair is white and whose hair is gray. Nobody cares about that. It's all everybody's soul. It doesn't matter if you're 10 or if you're 110. Everybody is in this together. So the Rebbe explains that after Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur is the unity, right? But after Yom Kippur says we each start doing avodah on our own. Why? Because Yom Kippur, we said it's the unity. After Yom Kippur, what happens? Everybody has to do their own avodah. And the examples given are everyone has to build their own sukkah. Every family should try to buy their own lulav and esrog. Everybody should try to do achnasas archem. Everybody should try to do all these things on a personal level. So that's why the Rebbe says, we say, Yaakov halach, where does he go? L'darkoi. It doesn't say to go l'darkehem. It says l'darkoi in the singular. Each one goes on her own journey. Everyone has to do their journey. That's the avodah of getting ready for Sukkot. Okay, but in a deeper sense, the unity of the Jewish people is still apparent through Sukkot and Simchas Torah, because we dance together and we daven together and we invite people and we do all kinds of things together. That's why the Rebbe says another level of this avodah of Yaakov HaChdaka is attained immediately following Simchas Torah. Why? Because what happens following Simchas Torah? Following Simchas Torah, you cannot push it off anymore. You know that now there's not another Yom Tov coming. Now, the unity is sort of, we're still united in all kinds of ways, but physically, people that I've actually spoke about this, that people who celebrated Yom Tov where they live, they don't have to travel. The minute Simchas Torah is over, they right away have to start. There's no time to waste. Immediately you have to start unpacking what you had. Those who've traveled and they have to travel home, so they will begin as soon as they get home. So they have to first travel home. But now each person is wherever they find themselves. And here we are at the beginning of the month of Heshvan, the Rebbe says, and that's why we have to continue this further into the month of Heshvan. It doesn't just happen that, Simchas Torah is over and now it doesn't just end. It continues into the month of Heshvan, and from Heshvan it continues for the rest of the year, of course, over and over and over again. Now, one of the other points I really just wanted to share was that, and this is really so appropriate for this year, for Hakel. We know that Sukkot is one of the Yom Tovim. It's an Oila Regel, right? And everybody would come together, so the unity was tremendous. When it comes to Shnas Hakel, the unity is even greater, and everybody is all together. And then we go on our own way. So one of the things that Rebbe teaches us is that even though, I say this is only Hasidim are so lucky to be able to live like this, even though many of us have to now travel back, if it's figuratively or if we have to travel back, we're now, so to speak, on our own, even though we should never think that we're on our own. But I'm saying for own, but it's still not our own. Why? Because now we have the ability, and even more than ability, we're charged with the task of taking all this and doing my. It's not enough now. Even if I could imagine how I could take all this stuff and unpack it and use it a whole year for myself, even that's not enough according to Hasidus. Now you have to take it and go out into the world, not only in my own house or in my own little cubicle, but go out into the world and share that, do v'yakav halachadarkai with the rest of the world out there. Even people that maybe did not celebrate Tishrei. And of course, people who did celebrate Tishrei, it doesn't matter. It's the entire idea of taking it all and using it to make ourselves better people and to try to connect with other people and, really make this message alive for ourselves, but not only for ourselves, but for the rest of the world. You want to say something? Oh, I thought somebody wanted to ask a question. Yeah, sure.
You said that the Avodah of Yom Kippur is or like that opposite of happening in Yom Kippur, and that Sukkot people are.
No, it says so. It says so. Because we on Yom Kippur, it says that this is the moment of the true unity, because we're not like we don't have things that get in the way between us. So everyone's together. What happens after that? Then everybody has to go and has to think about the mitzvahs they're going to do. They have to build a sukkah. They have to buy a lulav and an esrog. It's mitzvahs that we have to do. We have to go and do them, and so it's a time where we have to think about ourselves. Not, I don't mean in a selfish way, chas v'shalom, 100%. That's the thing. The thing is, if we do it in the right way, then what are we doing? We're taking a mitzvah that we are personally doing, and we're creating achdus with it by bringing it to other people. So how do we do it? We take like the four minim, right? And that is a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a all different people, and we put them together, right? And it teaches us something very special, which was actually what I was going to just say now, which is that what happens after we do that? Then we come to Simchas Torah. If we ever thought about it, what's Simchas Torah? We celebrate the Torah. If we are celebrating the Torah, why are we not opening up the Torah and dancing with the Torah open? Because we're celebrating what's in the Torah. Why do we dance with it closed up? And probably many of you have learned this, is that one of the things that it says, that Rebbe says in the Sikha, that we specifically dance with it closed, covered up with its cover on it. We do not see the actual letters that are printed in there. Why? Not printed, that are written in there. Because the Rebbe says these words, but it says, tanzen men nicht mit dem Kopf, nor mit dem Fuß. Why? How does a person dance? Not with their head. They dance with their feet. It's an equalizer. You could be brilliant, you could know nothing, but it has absolutely no bearing on how you dance. So some people, if they would dance with the Torah open, could make people feel bad. How could I rejoice with the Torah when I don't know what's in it? I never had the opportunity to learn. There are people that are much wiser than me, people that are much greater scholars. No, we don't do that. What we do is we have the Torah, we dance with it, and it's an equalizer for everything. So basically what we're doing is we have this whole month where we have various different ways of serving Hashem. And, there's always an opportunity for us to be together, even when we do mitzvahs that are personal mitzvahs, obviously. But it's an unbelievable idea that the whole concept is that we take everything that we had, we take everything we learned, we take everything that inspired us, and we use it for ourselves, and we use it for the rest of the world. It reminds me of a story that was said about told about the Farbrengen Rebbe, that just like one of the things that was a very amazing thing was, we said everybody bought their own lulav and esrog, whoever was able to, right? But still, here in Lubavitch, in Crown Heights, if you were lucky enough to be here, everybody bought a lulav and esrog, but the men would be able to go every day. The Rebbe would give out his lulav and esrog. People would stand in line and they would be able to use the Rebbe's lulav and esrog.
Only the men?
The only day the women got it every year on Shaindy Rabbah, the last day that you shake it. I will never forget that as long as I live. A whole day we were worried. Why? Because it's a very busy day, especially in Crown Heights, but you don't want to miss it, right? So we would, until one day somebody very smart came up with a brilliant idea. They actually said you could come and take a number. I don't know why it took 100 years to figure that out, but they came and you would get a number. So let's say you got a number 10. So you went very early. You got a number 300. And if you came and you got 50 and they were up to 200, they would let you in. Okay. Rebbetzin Maryasha Garelik. This is the grandmother of like the Lane, Henya Lane, her mother, so her grandmother, okay, Mrs. Shula Kazen's mother, Rebbetzin Maryasha Garelik, was the one here in Crown Heights who had the zchus of getting it. And she would stand the entire Shaindy Rabbah and hold it and give it from person to person to person. And it was like the greatest thing in the world. So what happened was the Frierdiker Rebbe did the same thing. There's a beautiful story told that one day, at the end of the day, after so many people used the Rebbe's Lulavan Esrog, the Frierdiker Rebbe's Lulavan Esrog, one of the Chassidim brought it back to the Frierdiker Rebbe. And I don't know if it was him or another Chassid who was standing nearby, and he remarked to the Frierdiker Rebbe, and he said, "Oy, look how this is terrible. Look how many marks and this, and how discolored this beautiful esrog of yours. Look how it looks now. It doesn't look the same, like the same beautiful esrog." And Frierdiker Rebbe said to him, "Why? What are you saying? This is the most beautiful esrog in the world, an esrog that hundreds, thousands of Jewish hands touched. Couldn't have a more beautiful esrog." So this is really the concept of, here you could see like the fusion of the single and the community coming together. It's about, even when we do something that requires us to do it ourselves, it's still never totally ourselves. It's always in connection to another Jew, another Jewish community, etc., etc. So this is a little bit, there's so many more things we could say about, of course, about the concept, but I think that most important really is the idea that, it's inspiration is very, very hard to keep up. You know what they say? They say inspiration is like bathing. It doesn't last. You got to keep doing it, right? Exactly. And this is really what it means. So we, on a physical level, it sounds very mundane, but it's really, really not mundane at all. Like we could all go back to places, you ever go somewhere and it's just like, even if you're not there, like I was thinking to myself, I had so many people telling me, people that don't know maybe what's happening, don't know so much about it or whatever, people that I invited, I would give them the link to watch the Kinus HaShluchim, Shluchais, or Shluchim, whatever, the banquet, right? And people were telling me like, this is like the most inspiring thing in the world. And then like a few times I brought guests, right? And they were there. They, I was the guest, they were guests, but like I wanted them to get that being in the, and they were like, oh my God, like they walked out and they were like, I could do anything. I feel like I could accomplish anything now. Like, and they were in such a high, and I was saying to myself, it's so true. But the problem is we go home and then the refrigerator breaks or whatever happens, and real life happens. And maybe it's not real life, but looks like real life while we're living in it. And it's hard to keep up the excitement and that's why it says, and that's the biggest challenge. We say every single day, we say more than once, we say in Shema that we know the Asher Nahim Mitzvah Hayoim, that I gave you the mitzvahs today. Rashi teaches us, yes, what does it mean? He gave us the mitzvahs today. He gave it by Matan Torah. No, every day the mitzvah should be brand new to you as if you just got it today. It's a hard thing to do, but it's an amazing thing to strive for. And Hashem should help all of us that, of course, we should be able to do it in the most amazing fashion. I would venture to say that I think that one of the best ways to try to keep up this inspiration, it's very hard to do things if you're only doing it for yourself. Like we all know, many years ago when I was teaching in high school, I asked a woman to come speak, and she spoke so well. She's to come speak to my students. What did she say? She said that, and it was a woman that she had for many, many years tried to lose a lot of weight, and whatever, was a very hard job. And she came and she lost weight and she stayed that way. And she said to the girls, I want to tell you something. The reason why I was able to accomplish it this time was not because of me. I'm the same me that I was every other time I tried. It was because I did not do it alone. I had a partner, and we were constantly giving each other, his look and telling. She said, and that's the only way I was able to do it. And I had to be strong for her when she needed it. She had to be strong for me. And that's why I was successful. And I thought to myself, it's such an amazing lesson. It's so true. If you know that you have to inspire another person, you have to teach another person, you have to help another person, you have much more, you have to do it. So you prepare yourself, or you even if you don't want to do it, but if you said that you will, like a lot of people will say, I announce that I'm giving a class. And then the time comes and I'm like, oh my God, why did I do this? But I can't not do it because I said I'm going to do it, right? I think we all live through this many times in our lives through many different things. So what is, I think, the ultimate lesson that the Rebbe teaches us in one of the sikhs where he speaks about this, he says the following. He says, I'm going to actually read it to you because I think that it's beautiful, even though I'm saying it in English here, okay? The life and sustenance for all the limbs of the body come from the head, right? We all know that. Chas v'sholom, if everybody gets the most amazing limbs, but if the head's not working, it's a big problem. It is of utmost importance that a healthy connection is maintained between the head and all the limbs of the rest of the body in order to keep up this flow of life, right? We all know that. It's a very, very real thing. So too, this is what the Rebbe says. We must keep up a healthy connection with our head. The Rebbe was talking about the Rebbe, right? The Rebbe. You have to keep up the healthy connection with the Rebbe. That's the head. Ensuring that we have the proper highest to do our avodah. So just like our head has to give us the proper ability to live in the rest of our limbs, so we have to keep that great connection with the Rebbe so that we have the highest to do our avodah. And our iskashrus to the Rebbe is what gives us the power to fulfill the avodah of Yaakov al-Chadarkai throughout each and every day of the year. So when we think about this, it's hard when you think about it each and every day of the year. That's not an easy thing to do, but think about it the way the Rebbe said it. We would never take a break from our heads controlling the rest of our limbs and our body, because that would not bode very well. So each and every day, yes, each and every day we have to wake up, and each and every day we have to make sure that our head is on our shoulders and that it's directing the rest of our body. So each and every day we have to wake up and we have to think in the same exact thing, but in a spiritual way, in a ruchnistic kind of way, that yes, we find a way. If it's difficult, we have to think, make sure I remember that I have to be connected to my head, whatever it is. If it's opening a Hayom Yom every day, if it's sharing something with somebody else, if it's learning 3 words, if it's saying the 12 psuk, it doesn't matter. Everybody has to do what works for them. And like the Rebbe said many times, often we think that we have to do the greatest things in the world, so they become too difficult and then we just drop them. So we have to do small things, and every small thing adds up. And that's the way we maintain our ability to keep on being able and willing to do things, to share things, etc., etc. So just a little bit in a nutshell. If anybody has any questions or wants to share something, please do. Yes, please.
Just curious. You said by Yom Kippur, the ceremony, like the Rebbe would take the dance. Just curious how people did everyone get to see the Rebbe doing that? How did people see through the window? Even now, I can't.
Yeah, okay, it's a very, very good question. Yes. Okay. Yeah. No, it was. It was like everybody had their years where they were. Basically, if you were single and didn't have to, be chained to your chicken pop, then you had a bigger chance of, basically, it was like the heydays of it was like when I was a single girl and I wasn't in charge of, feeding everybody.
I can't even see what I want to see.
100%. You're 100% right. I can't even tell you. I'm going to tell you something. I'm telling you a true story. One Simchas Torah, I was already married already. And somehow or other, I don't know, my husband finagled to take my son. Whatever. I was able to go. Once I was able to go, it was amazing, miracle, right? Okay, I come 770. I still remember till today. I was wearing a brand new accordion pleated skirt, a navy blue skirt. I still remember. And I will never forget when I came out of there. I promise you, it was flat as a pancake. And I remember thinking, this is like wild. Like this, and not that it mattered. Trust me, totally. It made zero difference. I remember just walking out and looking in the mirror on my way out of 770 because I was thinking to myself, is my shaitan on my head still? Literally, I mean, it was like, you cannot imagine.
What did you climb over everyone or
Yeah,
everyone
but
climbed over
no,
you?
both, everybody, it was nonstop. It was like you, and also people would try to save places and people wouldn't try to save, it was all kinds of things. Eventually what they did was they made, it was very, very tough and it became not nice. So one year, years and years and years ago, they decided that they're going to make, it'll be more peaceful. They made like one shul was for Americans and one shul was for European. Okay, you still do it? Okay. But and they had and they had a Vad Hamasadr who used to try to, you know, whatever. And believe me, ladies, there were there were some very interesting things that happened. But for the most part, people for the most part really were quite nice, and people did try. Like for example, the Rebbe would dance the first and the seventh hakafa. That was the hakafa that the Rebbe would actually dance. You know, the other hakafas, 2 through 6, the Rebbe would stand in his place and it would watch the dancing and, like, you know, dance from there. So the pushing was unmerciless when it came, especially the first and the seventh. So, but people were really tried to be decent. And I'll tell you what, people are decent, they're generally decent. So I can't. First I'll talk about the ladies section. We were sometimes glad to be and look down. We were glad we were not in the washing machine. You know about the washing machine? Okay. And,
There were no windows.
There was no windows at all?
no, there used to be, but then eventually,
Was it, yeah, you know, like, why?
don't ask. It was
I mean, this
problematic.
was one crack.
Yeah, they would crack. There would be all kinds of crazy things. But so people would say, you know, like if let's say you had a place and you saw the first hakafa, you would want, you know, people in the back and say, do you want to see a minute? You know, like people tried really to be nice to each other. And then one day, so that was like an amazing thing. But I want to tell you, then Monday, when I was still in high school, yeah, I was in high school still. One day, my father said to me, because hakafas would go on very, very late, because the Rebbe wouldn't start until very late, because everybody came from Talucha. I like the first night, it didn't start till maybe, I don't know, maybe the first night maybe started 11 o'clock, but the second night it started like, yeah, middle.
Was only the second day.
No, but I'll tell you what, many people don't have hakafas the first night.
Right.
Chabad does, but people would go to shuls to make hakafas. So the Rebbe would have a short farbrengen, and people had a chance to come back. So
What time would it go?
so we would very, very late. Yeah, sometimes. So what? A girl. What do you think I did? I slept the next morning, right? Honestly, I'm confessing, I didn't go to shul the next morning because it was like you were half dead, right? Okay, and one day we were sitting up very late. It was like probably 5 a.m, and we came home. My father said, "If you really want to see the most amazing sight that you could only see once a year, go to shul tomorrow. You're going to see something awesome." Why? Because he told us, because the Rebbe would be called up for Hassan's Bracious or Hassan Torah. I forgot which one it was already. But the Frierdiker Rebbe used to be called up, right? So they call up both. They would call up the Frierdiker Rebbe's name and the Rebbe's name. And you could literally, my father would say, watch. It was very good because the shul, it was full, but nothing like the night before. So you could actually, you know, see. And you could see the way the Rebbe walked, and I'm not exaggerating, the way the Rebbe walked up to the Torah, you could mamish see like he left space, like somebody else was walking in front of him, literally, like the Frierdiker Rebbe. Yeah, that same nusach like you hear today, you know, Yamai. So they and it was like they said the first time that the Rebbe was Rebbe, and they pulled him up, the guy was trembling like he could barely. So it was so that I always thank my father till today, because who would go, even though we were girls, like you go to sleep and you already saw a couple, it was beautiful and it was amazing, and then of course I don't think I went to sleep until after, because I knew I wouldn't wake up.
Was the women's section packed by that time, or like
not nowhere near as packed. It was still very full, but it wasn't
the men
as packed. And the truth is, it was much more filled with women rather than girls, because that was most of the women, they were probably home serving, but it was an amazing, like, it was just a high. I can't even explain it was just an unbelievable era. Like even the whole Simchas Beis HaShoeva, when we were kids growing up, it didn't exist. And then one year the Rebbe spoke about it. How it started was the Rebbe said a sicha one night, and he spoke a sicha every night after that. It was very unusual on Sukkot.
What year was the first Simchas Beis HaShoeva?
You know, I'm not. Yeah, okay. You remember? I don't even
Was
remember.
that like the first time Aaron Freed and Mark Amadeus was singing on stage?
Probably.
No, that happened later. That happened later. In the beginning, it was correct. It was very, it was actually very nice. It was very grassroots, homegrown. Nobody was exactly. It was Montgomery and Kingston.
It wasn't in Marcel first?
No,
Oh, okay.
it was always Montgomery Kingston because they wanted to be like more central. That it would be. Oh, thank you. You're so nice. So anyway, it was
memoirs, Reposition Partisans memoirs.
yes,
He
exactly.
tells the story. Or
Yes.
they carried. He's like, okay, we're going. They carried benches from 770 down Kingston.
Literally,
set them up and
literally,
started
it was
singing.
like.
Police didn't shut the roads yet? Like it was
Well,
just
the first night, no, nobody said anything.
No,
It was like, you know, it was,
When they
yeah, exactly.
The Rebbe was every year at that time he would give a bracha to all the guests.
Yeah.
Called bracha to Arvin.
Yes.
And all the like Kaiser and everybody, they were all, I think it took place in the or somewhere. They were all waiting for, like they went ahead to get places, and then the Rebbe wasn't coming, and they're waiting, and finally somebody came and said like the Rebbe just started the sikha, like go back up, and they all went up, like they all missed the breakout of something Sheva. But it was like it was already Yom Tov, like there was no time, like there were no arrangements made, like it was on Yom Tov.
then
It
how
wasn't
did
like
everybody
people
know
were
where
just-
to
Don't forget,
People just-
Right, when my father was a kid, it was a two-way street
What?
with parking. So like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, it wasn't.
No, it
like-
wasn't that long ago, though. This one wasn't that long
When did
ago.
Kingston like that?
This was like probably, was probably
Can I ask you a
Two-way
question?
street.
30, 40 years ago.
First of all, about the Rebbe Sefer Torah, like what was such a big Indian about that? Because I see nowadays like a whole thing to get like get the Rebbe Sefer Torah. When did like that whole thing happen?
Well, the truth is that I don't think that, if I remember correctly, I don't remember ever that we were able to kiss that Torah until only after, I think, Chav Zayin Adar. They would bring it outside. I don't remember ever before that, unless I'm mistaken, but I don't think so. I mean, it was an unbelievable sight to see the Rebbe dance, because he used to dance with his brother-in-law, the Rashag.
You saw it?
Yeah, we saw from upstairs,
wasn't
the
with
first
Mashiach.
and the seventh. But
The
then,
Mashiach Sefer Torah,
what'd you
when did
say?
it go in?
That only ever happened on Yom Tov, that the Rebbe dance. Like
Well,
I've never seen
Yes.
a video.
That's
Yeah,
why,
you
yeah, you
never
can't
see
see a
the
video. But after the Rashag passed away, everybody was, what's going to happen now? This first Simchas Torah, because is they going to dance with somebody? What's going to happen? And right before the first Hakafa, suddenly, you know, we were upstairs, and we saw a commotion. Like I was for sure married already. I remember that. I think my kids were a drop older already, and we saw a commotion. All of a sudden, we saw people like literally passing kids overhead. Now, you know, when you see like 1,000 black hats, and now you see like kids flying overhead. And the Rebbe said, I think he told Rabbi Groner that all the kids should come on the bima. And the Rebbe danced in the middle with the Torah and all the kids around him.
Wow, it was so special.
It was the most
Were they
unbelievable
Those kids
thing.
are
Yeah,
little kids.
it was unbelievable. It was literally like a scene. It was just, and it was also very, very unusual, because who
Was
knew
that-
what was going to
Is that
happen?
like every year after? Like what year was that?
I think it went on like this for a while. I'm not sure. Yeah, the first year after the Rashad passed away. Oh, well, it was mobbed. You can't imagine what was going on. It was like, I mean, it was always
What year
mobbed
was
from
when
us started,
the
but this
Rashad
was,
After and then after 77.
it's for sure after 77. It's after 80 something for sure, because, yeah, maybe at the end of the 80s, maybe, I don't remember exactly. But it's just,
Well, it was after his Havens, right? Was he?
it was probably shortly after then.
1989.
So, yeah, what'd you say, 19? In 1989, that, right, okay, 1989, I'm just trying to put this
The
into
Rebbe
my
had a
own,
heart attack before?
19, the Rebbe was 1977, Tafshan Lamed Ches.
Were you there?
Yeah, I was, it was like,
Was it like this?
this is 1989, you said? Yeah, it was the scariest thing in the world.
You know, it's interesting.
It was,
For anyone who doesn't, I'm a little addicted to books. So right now I'm going through
it's a good addiction.
Master.
Yes,
the
that of
Master.
Rabbi Groner.
Oh,
I know.
goodness.
I didn't have a chance to even open it yet, but I will. I am waiting for Shabbos. No, this Shabbos not good. I'm not going to open it. This is the kindness of the students. Forget it, but okay.
Right. So over there, it actually has a lot of from Ray Groner's diaries, what happened on the, the things that we don't always hear. It's really, really, really powerful.
Very, very.
Was that a special Simchas Torah? Like, because I heard, yeah.
It was unbelievable. It was.
Could I share something?
Please.
One of the Guraris, the one that resides me, Dr. Salgari.
Yeah.
He asked Reb Taimashka, like, what was the Rebbe's schedule on that Hashem Rabbah? And it seems like basically like the Rebbe didn't really eat that day. Like
Right.
he didn't eat that day. He came in from Shul and she said like he didn't go to the sukkah, so that means that he didn't eat, and then he was picked up for mincha and then Ma'ariv and then a Hafiz. So he asked her like, but I don't understand. Like that
after that heart attack happened?
you know that Hakafais is like the whole Hakafais is about the Rebbe. So like how could you allow him to do that? Like how could you allow him to go the whole day without eating? So
He was allowed to ask that. No one
Yeah,
else
he
would be allowed
was.
to ask that.
Yeah,
Because you have to understand the relationship.
Yeah.
No.
it's all
no.
about that.
Oh, that's so his sister.
But he basically grew up in the Friedrich Rebbe's house. So
Wow.
it was basically like a sister.
Right, because his father was assassinated in front of his own eyes.
What?
His father was assassinated.
So
He
his
was
mother,
raised
his
in-
mother like couldn't really raise him and asked the Rebbe to raise him. So the Rebbetzin said that since Yud Shah touched him, you're the only one who has any opinion or any say on what my husband does is the Shver, like is my father.
Her father, yeah.
Her father. Like it would have been help for the
Exactly.
Rebbetzin.
100%.
We can't say that that's the reason why it
My
happened.
grandfather.
No, of course not.
Well,
Of course not. Yeah.
Like, obviously, it's very sad that it happened. But
That's the Rebbe.
yeah, we don't
Isn't that
talk
cool?
about the Rebbe.
In Ray Groner's book, tells a story of the one time Simchas Torah day where the Rashag walked in and he was crying, came into shul crying, and everyone was like, "What is happening?" And the Rebbe saw him crying. Have you heard this story?
I did.
It's
Let's
amazing.
say
You
it.
can tell it.
No, I absolutely
You have
not.
the microphone, it's been
Please say it. I didn't read it for a long time, so I'm not sure even if
The day after the heart attack?
No, it's a different
a
year.
different year.
That who was
And
crying?
The Rashad.
the Rashag was crying, and the Rebbe looks at him and smiles. And everyone's trying to figure out what is going on. Why is the Rebbe smiling? Why is he crying? What is this whole? And then many years later, and only apparently fairly recently, they like confirmed the story of what happened. Of Groner basically somehow heard from the Rebbe. The Rebbe told him that the night before, during Hakafes, the Rebbe said to Rashag as they're about to dance, "Do you want to see something amazing?" And the Rashag is like, "Yes. Do you want to see something amazing?" And the Rashag said, "Okay." And apparently, when they held hands or when they started dancing, he was able to see the Friedrich Rebbe dancing with them, with his physical eyes. Like he was able to see. What? Yes. And so that's why he started crying. And then the next day, he was still like so in awe of the whole thing that he was still crying. But that's why the Rebbe was laughing, because this is a. I could get why
unbelievable.
that's funny.
It's
From his
unbelievable.
perspective.
Amazing.
I love that story.
Yeah, is this a Hakel event?
Yes.
Of course, Hakel.
So you don't have to write
I
out.
did- Well, I was there.
Okay, we should also do Torah Tefillah Tzedakah, right? It's okay, we did Torah, we did whatever.
Staka, the pushkas over here. Also,
Yeah, we could do that for sure.
I just want to share one more thing.
Please.
If we can do tonight, tonight is Lili Nishmas for David Ben Leon Aryeh Halevi. Allah Shalom.
Someone should have an aliyah, is right. Amen.
Which one are we missing for that?
Everyone send the cash up to the.
Exactly.
The clinking also counts, you know?
That's so funny. I just had a different Hakel somewhere and I said, okay, everybody said the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's how you do tzedakah nowadays. I don't carry around coins, right?
I literally was once on Kingston Avenue. I promise you this is true. Don't record this.
No.
And I'm passing by and somebody says, stuff or whatever. And I didn't have, and you know, these days I never have cash. It's a problem. I have to remind myself that.
Right.
I said, I'm sorry, I don't have any cash. He goes, I take credit cards. I don't know if I shall have it, but it was so funny.
Nowadays, the
I
money.
know. It was like so funny, but it's just.
I enjoy listening to Rabbi Gordon at his commission time.
Yes.
So he always makes this kind of similar style jokes. And then I was listening that same day, it was must have been Arabic Kippur. I was cooking and listening to all this year. And then I was listening to Schusterman, his halacha shir about Tanya. He goes, the coins make a noise. The bigger the bill, the bigger the noise. Too, you know?
That's very good.
Everyone, we all have our jokes and everything.
Exactly.
But yes.
No, it's a farbrengen. The floor is open.
And with that, I will.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. You know what? I will say one thing that you said about you were saying in the beginning about the tillim, that it's a mini tillim. You can take it with you everywhere you go. Always remember this. I think it's the Tzemach Tzedek that said, if we knew what tillim would accomplish, we would never ever stop saying it. So whenever you have a free moment or wherever you are, it's an unbelievable thing. And he writes also, actually it's from the Friedrich Rebbe, that when a person says tillim, it has an effect not only on them, but on their children, their grandchildren, all the generations to come.
Was that talking about Tillim or like just telling
in general? So it's a really powerful thing.
Oh, yeah, I learned about yesterday was my birthday.
Oh, Mazel Tov!
Today's my English. And I learned about like a pitzel and just reading it. I'm like, the way David Amelch talks to Hashem and refers to life and circumstances, it's so actually puzzling to me that I'm just so curious. If anyone has any book recommendations that can like give me more of like information, what's this relationship and how he connects to the world and talks about things in his life. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, it's very very poetic also. So it's very.
Yeah, I'm so curious about it.
In the meantime, I want to say on behalf of all of us, a huge thank you to Mrs. Shaindy Jacobson for joining us tonight.
My greatest pleasure.
And I don't know your color scheme, so you can come choose a color scheme. But in the meantime, I want to give you a bracha for your weekday and for your Shabbos.
It's so nice.
So our weekday present is, I know that you work very hard and go up and down Eastern Parkway a lot, Baruch Hashem. So you should always be able to take your hot drink and have a reminder to warm up with the warmth of Torah.
That is so nice. Ladies, that is really nice. I'm very touched.
So this is your weekday present.
Thank you. It's beautiful. Very cute. Really cute.
Bencher
Very nice.
Shabbos. We have
So nice. I noticed that when I walked in. I thought that was so nice.
Yeah, so we have a matchstick box for
It's
you.
beautiful.
There's different color choices. I don't know what's your house.
This is beautiful.
but-
I love white. It's beautiful. Thank you. That's so nice.
Thank you so,
I'm so touched.
much.
I come here and I get presents. It's amazing. Yeah, what's tomorrow's gift?
Exactly.
Oh, really, thank you. Thank you so much, ladies. Thanks for coming. Hashem should bench each and every one of you with the fulfillment of all your heart's desires. This should be the year now, V'yakov halach l'darkei, you, all the brachas for your birthday, and everybody. It's an amazing year to go into Shnas Hakel. It should really bring us the ultimate Hakel of all of Klal Yisrael together in Yerushalayim.
Amen. And
My pleasure. Thank you.